Hello and welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, a couple of things to talk about this week with a reminder that we're coming close to Ignite as well. So I don't think you'd get many big announcements. There is something to talk about today, which honestly I thought might wait until Ignite, but didn't. And that's kind of interesting in itself. Anyway, let's get into it. So the first thing is I want to draw attention to a blog post by Vesa Juvonen about the SharePoint Framework. Now, the SharePoint Framework team have put together this blog post, which is really a roadmap update. And it's an interesting one. It's not like lots and lots of announcements. What they're doing really is laying out, what they're going to do long term. And this is a really interesting thing to do, I think, for something like SPFx. It's, which is one of the extensibility options you have right now for extending Microsoft 365. And it's really grown as an extensibility tool since it first came out and first started. It's become a really important part of the story. And as part of that, I think the team just want to provide clarity, reassurance, and just kind of give that expectation of a long-term vision and, a sort of sense that you can rely on SPFx to be around. And as part of that, they've done this blog post, which kind of calls out what they're going to be doing throughout the rest of the year and then way into the middle of next year, which I think was really interesting. And obviously the detail goes away, but what they're doing is kind of underlying and confirming an investment. And I think that's the most important thing I think you could take out of this blog post is that commitment to SPFx as an extensibility tool. I think there was definitely a time, where I don't think anyone was really sure if SPFx was going to carry on, whether it was just going to be like an idea and then go away again. And there have been other things like that. For instance, the Microsoft 365 Graph tool, what was it called? The toolkit. That was a really good set of tools for developers to abstract some of the problems and make things easy, but it didn't get taken forward and is now being deprecated. But SPFx looks like it does have that kind of that longer term vision, and it's got that kind of stability, if you like, well into next year. So they're talking through the things they're doing. It wouldn't be a roadmap without a picture of a road. So here's all of that stuff in slide form, and I think it's good. And then obviously talking about what immediately is next as well, and where SPFx is going. It's really evolving as well. Not to become more than just something that goes in kind of SharePoint and provides a way of providing custom content into SharePoint, but they're really kind of leaning into the agent stuff and the AI stuff as well. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where that goes, because then obviously that brings it into play for other scenarios as well, which is interesting. And so I think it's one of those technologies that if you don't do a lot of SharePoint development, it's easy to have ignored until now, and that's fine. I think if you don't need it, you don't need it, and that's okay. I do think it's worth keeping an eye on, though, even if you don't do a lot of SharePoint development. Like I don't do a lot of SharePoint development, but I have found it is worth keeping an eye on SPFx, especially as they move into different experiences and as SPFx becomes available in more places, I think. And so it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. Okay, so that's SPFx. Other things that are happening. Okay, so there's a fairly niche deprecation that will affect some people, I'm sure, but probably not loads of people. When you're looking at insights items in Microsoft Graph, one of the things you can do is have a resource visualization property, which allows you to kind of, sort of display something about or get some context or information about the insight item. One of those was a preview image URL, which allowed you to obviously get back a URL that you could then use to preview something in a UI. That particular property is going away. So there's deprecation notice. It's going away in 2 years' time. So this came out of the 1.0. This is off the 1.0 roadmap. So they have to give 2 years notice of deprecation. So they've given it now. It's immediately deprecated. It is going to be removed in 2 years' time. Now, this, as they say in here somewhere, this doesn't work particularly well anyway. For some things, I can't remember where I said that. File attachments don't have a consistent preview experience, so removing this property simplifies the API. I mean, you could argue that what would make it even better would make it work everywhere, but in the absence of that, they've decided to take it away instead. Fine. I guess if you obviously if you use this, not fine. If you depends what you're doing, you could have a look at the drive item preview action to see if that has what you need in it. Otherwise, I think you may just need to code around this and just have a different type of preview URL image for that stuff. So that's a quick one. Probably won't affect that many people unless you know that it definitely does affect you. In which case, you've got 2 years to do something about it. Okay, so I am going to talk about the new app builder for Microsoft 365 Copilot. I want to make sure I give myself enough time to do that. But I do also want to call out a series I don't think I've spoken about before that you probably already know about, but you might not. And so if you don't, then you definitely should. And that is the Scott and Mark Learn To series with Scott Hanselman and Mark Rusinovich. These are really good. So they're on YouTube. They're probably about half an hour long each one, and it is Scott and Mark talking with each other. So if you don't know those two gentlemen, go and do a bit of research. They are senior people inside Microsoft, but they're also techies. They're engineers. They both do coding still day to day, even though they are now in leadership positions. And they talk about all sorts of things, not sort of necessarily highly technical things, although it does go there sometimes, but about other stuff as well. So in this last episode that I thought was really, really good, they're talking a little bit about the AI productivity gains or losses, from using AI in development. And you might think that's not a controversial subject, that it's an obvious answer, but I would say actually it's worth listening to that because the answer is way more nuanced than, AI good, AI bad. And so hearing those two talk about it, I think is really interesting because don't forget both of those people manage hundreds of engineers. So they know, and this is from inside Microsoft. Microsoft, they have they have that lived experience of what AI can do, both for good and for bad. And so I think hearing their fairly unfiltered views on it, I think is really good. And I don't think you'll ever kind of take away that filter of, they work for Microsoft because they are, professionals. They work for Microsoft. They represent Microsoft. This is not necessarily a Microsoft produced thing. But also I don't think, like you're going to get a fairly kind of pro Microsoft view, whatever you do, because they're still employed there and that makes sense. But I think as much as, can be, I think this is the flattest, like most accurate, most engineer focused discussion that I've found for a while. So I think it's definitely worth it. It's on YouTube. They've got such a cool intro every episode. It's very old school. If you're of an age, you will recognize it. But don't worry if you're not. It doesn't matter. Just listen to this episode because it's a really good one. They do a bunch of others. Obviously, this is the 27th, as you can see. They do a bunch of them. They're all pretty good, but this one in particular I thought was absolutely worth it. And then finally and briefly, App Builder for Microsoft 365 Copilot. It's coming soon to a tenant near you, depending on whether or not you're in the Frontier program. This is a thing where it's a bit like vibe coding inside Microsoft 365. You can say, hey, Copilot, I want an app to do X, Y, and Z. And as long as X, Y, and Z fits into a fairly small box, then it will create an app for you. Now, there's quite a lot to go into that, and I kind of don't want to talk about it here. I think I'm a bit on the fence about whether this is a good idea or not, honestly, which is why I don't really want to talk about it. I think for certain situations, it might be a good idea, and I don't want to take away the cool idea of a proof of concept that people can spin up to show what they mean and what they're, what the point they're trying to make. I feel like users may get frustrated if they hit the boundaries of what's possible quite quickly and then like never come back to use it. But I think that's just a risk Microsoft needs to take right now. Check it out, App Builder. If you're a developer, I wouldn't be super worried about this. If you're not a developer and you've never built an app before and you kind of want to see what would happen if you said, like, let's build one, give it a go. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. All right, enough from me this week. Have a good one. See you next time.